Hello, Hayes. 3 years ago, I moved across the country for graduate school, and ever since then, I felt like my best friend and I have been drifting apart. She hasn't been as present in our text conversations, and most of our virtual interactions this past year haven't felt very fulfilling. In the meantime, she's formed a really close-knit friend group. Recently, she's told me over FaceTime that she's planning a birthday trip to New York with them. I live on the East Coast now and have mentioned being interested in visiting New York before, so I was hurt not to be invited. When I brought this up, she said I could come, but when I asked why she didn't invite me in the first place, she said she assumed I'd be busy or not interested, which left me wondering if she really wants me there. Later, she mentioned she plans to spend a lot of money on the trip. I'm a PhD student, so money is tight. The way she brought it up didn't feel like she was thoughtfully considering my situation. It felt more like she was setting a caveat. Now I can't tell whether she cares if I come or not, and I worry that if I don't, our friendship will drift even further. If she expressed wanting me to be there, I'd fly there in a heartbeat. One more complicating factor, she doesn't respond well to confrontation, so I usually try to keep things casual and avoid anything that might feel heavy. How can I navigate this? Should I go on the trip to try to reconnect, or should I accept that our friendship has shifted? Yours, conflicted friend. One thing I'm thinking about right now is how funny we can be, how silly we can be. The way that we subconsciously go out of our way to make our problems more difficult, or what I'm sensing here is that there is a relationship that you really care about, that you are struggling to process the change in the relationship. And so, because the ambiguity is so complicated and because the ambiguity is so uncomfortable, you went out of your way to have a really tangible problem to address in what I think is like a subconscious hope to finally deal with the problem once and for all. Like, in the absence of a conflict, it's almost like you created one. And I don't mean that in a you created a problem, you're to blame kind of way. I think it's very human of us. I certainly do this too. Like, sometimes when there's a relationship or a problem that feels unresolved and we don't know how to get the closure, we create something tactical that we'll have to discuss, and that there will be that we try to force some sort of we force the conflict, because the situation you're in now, you have invited yourself on something that you weren't really invited on. And now you've committed to going, but you're not sure if you're going to go. And at the end of this is going to be at the end of this situation, you're going to have some sort of answer. And I just find it so interesting the way we do that. And I don't know if you realized that you did that or that that was something you were doing, but we're here. Because this isn't really about the trip. And I don't think that even when you learned, I know it feels like it's about the trip. I know it feels like, oh, what I'm really hurt about is that my friend has a new group of friends and she's going on a birthday trip that I always said I wanted to go to this place, and great, here's the problem. I don't think it's about the trip. It's really about your friendship and the fact that this friendship has shifted, which I know you recognize. In the beginning of your letter, you said that yourself. But I don't think a person who is secure in their friendship doesn't get upset when that friend is spending time with other people. That is the hard truth here. And I think what I do want to talk about this specific trip, but first, that is the wound here. That is the sadness that you're going to have to continue to sit with and that you're going to have to process, and you might need to process alone. That there is a friendship from your past, a best friend who you have drifted from. And I think there's no way to rush that acceptance process. People always ask me, Hayes, I know friendships change, but how do I accept it? How do I get over it? And I'm not sure. There's no friendship breakup guide for dummies. There's no real tactical set of tips, at least not any that I'm going to give you. I think it's time, and I think unfortunately, we learn these lessons the hard way. Lessons such as trying to force a friendship. You can't force friendship. You can't force somebody to want to stay connected with you. And if I think back on maybe some of my own friendships that have fallen apart or changed, I imagine that I've learned the same lesson that you have. I imagine I maybe haven't done it with friends so much recently, but I certainly did it with boys. we try so desperately to make somebody treat us the way that they used to or the way that we have imagined that they should. And sometimes you just have to, you try, and then you finally realize, wow, these efforts are for nothing, or wow, I should never have been doing this. Wow, or I should have more respect for myself. And then you finally stop. Like some of these lessons you do just have to learn yourself. Nobody can tell you to stop. And I'm sad and I'm sorry that that is something that you are dealing with now, that you are dealing with that same type of relationship loss. Though I'm calling it a loss because I think it is a loss for you. The relationship is not the same as it used to be, and for you, that is a loss. But the fact that, look, I'm not in your friend's head. The fact that you're saying yourself, she's not present, your virtual reactions haven't felt as fulfilling, and you've drifted apart. You know, I don't know. I don't know what it is that she thinks, but I think it's fair to say that we can call it a loss for you. Once you see, once you get to a place where you realize our friendship is such that I would not be invited on her birthday party with her new friends. I think you're going to have to sit through a lot of pain to get to that level of acceptance or acknowledging reality, but that is where you need to get to be, I think. And I think that friendships can actually heal from this too. I think that friendships can change to the point, like let's say you're in graduate school. I don't know how old you are, but for the sake of this conversation, I'm going to assume you recently graduated undergrad and, maybe you're in your mid-20s. I think it's completely normal for friendships to change across distance. Actually, there's so many types of changes with friendship that are normal. So maybe normal isn't even the right word. I've certainly had friends who I still feel quite close to, where we've gone years of kind of more infrequent communication. Like I think about some of my high school friends. One of my most cherished friends, Sammy. I made a little video of us catching up a couple weeks ago. Maybe you saw I was in the gray sweatshirt and just smiling like a little girl because that's how I feel every time I talk to her. We maybe see each other once a year at this point when I go to Boston. I'm not even able to see her every time I go back home. Our friendship definitely has changed because we are not in the same place and we don't talk all of the time and we're not even really prioritizing talking all of the time. However, I know that if I were to move back home, our friendship would pick up exactly where it left off. There's no doubt in my mind about that. And even maybe when I move back to the Northeast, I imagine we're going to see each other more and our friendship will evolve again. That said, given the distance, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm not included in everything with all of her other friends because I have accepted and I understand reality of what our friendship is now. Now, it's a little bit easier with the distance. I hear you. If you're on the same coast or you live driving distance with each other, then these things can feel a little bit more complicated. But my point is, I think that it's normal for distance to occur. And just because distance has occurred does not mean the friendship is over. And is there a world in which your friendship is not over, but you are maybe gripping onto something that is impossible right now? And because you're gripping on so hard, that's actually what's hurting the friendship. I don't want to say that to blame you. I find this such a hard thing to balance because sometimes my honest reaction when I hear anyone, a loved one in my life, somebody who writes into the advice column, someone who's sending me a message on Instagram, something I read, and I see that I don't want anybody that I care about to be desperate for anybody's love, attention, friendship, anything. You should never, a good friend to you, a good partner to you, somebody the types of relationships you deserve should never require your desperation. They should never require desperate attempts or bids for connection. And that doesn't mean that I think insecurity can sometimes be present in healthy relationships and loving relationships, of course. Doubt, of course. But desperation, that's such an ugly word, and maybe I could come up with another one, but I do think there's something desperate, and I relate to this myself. So I hope I am not being judgmental, but it does make me sad even thinking about the only times where I've done this. Like inviting yourself or asking to go on something that you weren't invited on with people you don't know just so that you could try to save the relationship. That's like a desperate, it's a Hail Mary, you know? It's like one final thing I can do that maybe will fix this. And I don't think it will. I don't think going on the birthday party is going to fix the wound that you feel. It might not create a bigger wound, but the only thing that's going to fix the wound you feel, I think, is accepting that this friendship has changed and you thinking to yourself whether you can find some joy in what it is now. But it doesn't sound, my analysis of your story, from what I can tell from what you've written to me and how you feel, is that that's what's required here. There is no world where right now you're going to go back to the way you felt before you moved across the country and the distance first began. But maybe you can find pieces of it through acceptance. I don't think we can ever get the friendships we want by clinging on to the past. I don't. And it's hard watching your friends who you miss and where you haven't yet accepted or found peace in what your relationships become, when you watch them be happy with other people. It's sort of one of those ways that, friendship is not a romantic relationship, but it's one of those ways where I know it can feel similar, like seeing somebody that you used to date find a new girlfriend or start dating somebody new. It's kind of painful. And if in your head you still want, I'm sorry, I'm trying to not use the word desperate because I know it's a loaded word, and I can imagine how I would feel if somebody continued to use that word with me. So I want to again say, I do not feel the judgment as I say it, but I recognize that it is a loaded word, and a word that is often tinged with judgment. So anyway, I understand why you feel that way, because you really wish things were the way that they used to be. But I want you to try to tap into your rational brain and realize that it makes sense that this person has created a new friend group. And I also think it's okay when people keep their friend group separate. Now, just because it's okay doesn't mean that it's going to make you feel different. But I do think sometimes that when we are so engulfed by our emotions and we start to think everything's wrong around us, it is really important to kind of hold our thinking accountable, to realize, okay, I'm having a big emotional reaction to the fact that she has a different friend group in the new place she moved, and she's going on a birthday trip with them. I'm sad that our friendship is not such that I would be invited on that group trip, but I can recognize rationally that why would I be invited? Maybe 10 years ago, when we were the types of best friends we were, and I knew everybody she knew, maybe then it would have made sense. But rationally, I understand that that is not the case now. I do think that, and for all of us in all of our lives, like we sometimes, when we have huge emotional reactions, we need to come back down to earth and survey our reality. And often, I know I need friends to help me do that sometimes when I've been disappointed in certain relationships in my life. Like certain working relationships, for example, in addition to having direct conversations with people that I'm disappointed with sometimes, talking with other people that I trust to be like, can you help me see this straight? I'll tell them my feelings and I'll tell them my feelings. I do this with my therapist all the time too. And then like, what is real, and where maybe are my expectations wrong and I need to be rooted in reality. I think an area of growth for me is that I often do that work so much by myself and I don't always communicate. And that's totally a coping mechanism of the ways that I've learned to deal with great, great disappointment in my life, with people. I think I will speak for myself. Like when you have had to really change your expectations of something as means of survival, it does shift the way you view expectations of everybody. And I have certainly, I think, taken it to an extreme of once I see that someone can't meet my expectations, rather, while most relationships will kind of function in this middle ground where like, oh, you could probably talk to them about it. There's probably something that you can fix. I sometimes, my instinct is often to just like go very black and white because of my past experience. Hopefully that's not speaking too much in code for you. So I say that because I think sometimes my advice or my instincts can be so much like, deal with this on your own, okay? So I do want to challenge myself to see when maybe a conversation is necessary. And I think a type of conversation is necessary here, but for me, the conversation isn't, should I come on your birthday party? Why didn't you include me? Why aren't you being considerate about the money? She's not being considerate about the money because she wasn't building the trip around you. And that I know hurts. But that's why, she's not thinking that budget comment. If it felt to you that she was trying to set a caveat, maybe she was, maybe you coming on this trip is not what she intended, but she didn't know how to say no. And that is really hurtful. That is really, really hurtful. And I'm sad and sorry that could be the situation that you're in. Like, let's just like, I hate hold space, but like hold space for that. If that happened to me, I would need friends to be like, that fucking sucks and it's not nice. And I'm sorry that this is how you're finding out that this friendship has changed. But sometimes when we're not getting the signs, we like hurt ourselves, but also help ourselves by demanding a sign that's very clear and very hurtful. And this could be that for you. My analysis, if I can be completely blunt, is that she didn't invite you on the trip because the trip was with her other friends. And even myself, like if I was planning a trip with my college friends, I wouldn't invite somebody that I'm an old friends with. I think it's common for people to keep it separate. Her answer when she said that she thought you'd be busy or uninterested does not sound completely truthful. And I could see how you'd be confused by that. If someone said to me, why wasn't I invited? And I was surprised that they'd even ask me that. I'd be like, what do you mean? I'm going with my college friends. Would love to do something with you separately, though. That's probably how I would react to that. The money comment, I see how it's hurtful, but I think that what that shows me, if I were in your shoes, I'd be thinking, okay, again, why would she be thinking about money for me? I was not included on this trip. She's inviting me because I asked to be invited. So if I'm inviting myself on something and they've said I can come, of course I'm not going to be the priority. I know you're worried that if you don't go on the trip, your friendship is going to drift further. I don't think it, I think honestly the opposite could happen. I don't think this trip is going to be the Band-Aid. I think going on the trip could highlight the distance in a way that's even more uncomfortable, and perhaps you'll feel even more stuck and isolated. Now, I'm projecting my personal experience here, but in my past, there is nothing worse than being on a trip with girls where you don't feel wanted there. It's like the difference between being included and wanted, or like invited and included. They're very different things. I've been invited to things before because I'm a part of the group, for example, but I do not feel wanted there. I do not feel like I belong. And that's what I think you're searching for. You're searching for belonging with this friend. I don't know if you're going to find it on this trip. You might find it in a heart-to-heart with this friend. You certainly might find it in a heart-to-heart with this friend, but I don't know if you're going to find it on a trip with her other friends that you weren't included in the first place. The not responding well to confrontation, that's really interesting. So I I think what it made me think is like, is this person, is your friend, do they not respond well? No, it is a she. Does she not respond well to confrontation? Or perhaps could you be confronting her for something that she doesn't feel is warranted? And if I even remove you from that, I think it's an interesting thing to consider when we label anybody, oh, they're bad at confrontation. I think it's an important question to ask yourself. It's like, well, what am I confronting them about? Could I be asking too much of them? Or could I be part of the problem here? I just think it's a useful line of questioning before we label someone. If I think about myself, I think I'm pretty good at direct, hard conversations, and I'm pretty good at receiving feedback, though I can be very emotional about the feedback depending on what it is and who is giving it to me. I'm thinking about my husband, and like there are some things that, like, even though I know he loves me more than anything, there are certain topics, like the topics that fill me with most shame in my life. There are some topics that even he, a person who loves me, like I struggle to receive feedback on them. And something I really work on is like pausing before I react so that I give myself a minute to be like, okay, this isn't a bad confrontation. You feel your shame rising, take a breath. Can you be present in this conversation right now, or do you need a minute? So in some ways, it's like confrontation can be hard for me, but I'll still do it. But I would not respond well to somebody and I have not responded well to some friends in the past, friends who like people who expected more than I could give, even after I set clear, I clearly expressed what I could do. Like I think I've had a friendship, I've had friendships shift and then ultimately end because somebody wanted more from me than I could provide. Like always be texting, always be talking, always be asking when something's wrong. And I just couldn't, it was too much for me. It was too much for me. And is that me not responding well to confrontation by ultimately being like, I can't do this? Like, I'm not participating in this. Somebody maybe could say that, but to me, it's just, I'm not participating in this conversation anymore. And I see that happening a lot with friendship when things are changing. Like one person is moving into the future and wants to have some sort of relationship, but it's changing. And the other person keeps trying to kind of pull the friendship back. I see sometimes this, like, they're not good at confrontation, or they're too needy. I don't know. There's like this big distance happening between them. And the fact that you are avoiding being honest with her and keeping things casual is probably not doing the friendship a service. And I just want you to think about, who are you trying to protect? Are you trying to protect her, or are you trying to protect you? I think as a first step, like when a friendship is changing, it's completely appropriate to say, I miss you. This distance is so hard. It's been hard for me. I miss you a lot, and I miss the way our friendship was. And I understand that things change, but it's just been hard for me to process and hard for me to accept. That type of honesty, saying how you feel without demanding a change, I think is a really good first step. That could be the kind of emotional breakthrough that gives you some sense of belonging again in this friendship. So what should you do? I can't tell you what to do, you know? I think if you go on the trip, I feel like I sort of have told you what I would do. I have clearly said that I would not go on this trip. So I'm not going to backtrack on that. I would not go, but I probably wouldn't have asked to go. Like I wouldn't have addressed why wasn't I invited. If I did, if I had already kind of taken the steps that you've taken, what would I do? I might say, I thought about this some more, and I want to respect that this trip was with your other friends. And I think when I asked why I wasn't invited, I was reacting emotionally and the fact, reacting just based on the fact that I miss you and I'm sad our friendship has changed. Why don't you take the trip with your friends and you and I can, I'd love to, I know you don't live in the same place. I'd love to come out and visit you. You could you could make that initiative. Is there a weekend next month? That's good. I'd love to see you for your birthday and spend the night. That might even be a lot, depending on the nature of how your friendship has changed. I don't know. But I would maybe do something like that. Or I would just go now that I said that I was. But I would prime myself and I'd say, okay, I'm going into this and I want to make sure my expectations are right. I'm going because I want to. I'm going because, and like some of this might not be true, so I would try to make this true. I'm going because I want to. I'm going because I love my friend and I want to celebrate her on her birthday. I'm going because I want to meet our new friends. I'm not going because I'm trying to resurrect something that is no longer. I'm not going with magical thinking. I'm going to go and I'm going to accept that our friendship has shifted. At the end of the letter, you phrase them as opposites. Should I go on the trip to reconnect or should I accept that our friendship has shifted? I think both. Both can be true. You can go on the trip and accept the friendship has shifted. I'm speaking to you now, letter writer, but I'm also speaking to all of us. If I have one hope for us for next year, for 2026, is that we stop trying to prove ourselves to people who are not showing up with the same amount of love to the relationship. Or not even the same amount of love, but that we stop trying to prove ourselves or we stop begging for the validation from people that just don't make us feel like they want to give it, And I think that this applies to love, it applies to friendship, it applies to working relationships, it can apply to family. I want us to fucking stop. I want us to stop. I want to stop. And I think the place that I've done this the most is definitely in working relationships. Like, because I have felt lonely and unsure about my career path, I have really wanted kind of experts or like people who say that they're going to help me and work with me. Like I've spent so much time wanting to be someone they could like that I forgot about just being who I am and trusting that anybody I'm going to work with should be compatible with me. You are such an important part of the equation in your friendships. You cannot be a good, stable, healthy friend if the person you're trying to be friends with brings out the worst in you. And the worst in you might not be a bitch. The worst in you might not be like conniving. The worst in you might be needy or dependent or insecure. Like, we should stop chasing those relationships. I want it for all of us. That's really what I want for all of us this year, is to just chase nothing, Like, I want us to be in secure friendships, secure working relationships, secure romantic relationships. And I think there's so much that goes into making that happen, but it starts with being able to snap our fingers and realize, hey, why am I trying to force something that isn't working? Why am I trying to force myself onto someone who just isn't really loving me in the way that I like to be loved? You know what it feels like in your body when you're talking to someone who's making you feel comfortable. You know what that feels like. Stop trying to force it with somebody where your spidey senses are going off constantly. Now, it's hard when you have history with someone and they used to be a person who made you feel comfortable. I know. There's no way to rush the process of accepting that and healing from it, but you got to start somewhere. And that time, I think that somewhere is now. Okay. I'm sorry that you're going through this. I wish there was a more clear way I could tell you to fix it, but I think it's time. I think you just got to give this time. And if you do go on the trip, just go into it with those, set those intentions, repeat them to yourselves like mantras, and I think it will be okay. You're going to be okay. This is going to be okay. And you will find friends in the future that make you feel the way this one used to feel. And they might even last longer too. All right. I love you, and I love everybody for listening. Take a quick sip of coffee, and then I'll be right back. Hi, everybody. Something kind of funny that I wanted to share with you. So I've been making Vlogmas for almost a week now, and I'm learning a lot. I'm having a lot of fun. Definitely things I would change. Definitely some things I would change next time. if I were to do this again or if I were to do some kind of daily vlogging again. But I'm learning a lot, and I'm reminding myself, kind of reminding myself of why I started, which I shared with you in last week's episode. I'm doing Vlogmas so that I can find my vlogging voice and figure out what kinds of vlogs I like and what kinds of vlogs I like and what kinds of vlogs you like and resonate. And it's all part of a bigger project of me expanding beyond my advice column and giving myself permission to make other things and express other parts of my personality and grow my business, really. And it's been kind of scary. It's been kind of scary. And there are moments, though, even in the last 7 days, where I was like, why? Like, this feels disappointing that it's not immediately taking off, that it's not immediately the most successful thing I ever did. I had those moments, which is crazy. But of course I did, because I'm human and we sometimes do forget the bigger picture when we're stuck in the minutia. And what I did in those moments is remind myself, the point of me doing this, the point of me putting in all this effort and working this hard on something is not so that every day is a gigantic capital W win. The point of working hard on something for yourself is not for those easy wins. It's for the big picture growth. It's for the lesson at the end. And that was really helpful for me to remember, because it is kind of intense, like it is intense what I'm doing right now. And whatever you're working on in your life, I bet that's intense too. If there's something that you've said, every day I'm going to work on this, or every other day I'm going to work on this, whether it's a professional project or a hobby or a relationship. And when we do hard things, every day is not going to be perfect. But the little setbacks aren't really setbacks, because we're not measuring our success on any one day or on any one project. We're measuring it at the end. And that's helped me. That's helped me take some of the pressure off and kind of helped rewire my brain a little bit, because my brain, Lord knows, my brain needs some rewiring when it comes to my relationship with my work. So that was one interesting thing. I am glad, though. It seems like the style that I'm doing right now is resonating with a bunch of you, and that makes me feel really good. I've gotten some lovely notes from people, and I trust that you're not just saying that. You're not my mom. I think my mom commented on my first Vlogmas. She's like, I can't wait for this tomorrow. I'm so stoked for this series. I'm like, Mom, I love you so much, but it's a little embarrassing. It's a little embarrassing when there's like 2 comments and one of them was from my mom. But I love her and I do appreciate it. But there have been, not a ton, but some new people joining our community on social from Vlogmas. And somebody sent me a note asking, it's really nice to meet you. I really appreciate how open and honest you are. And I imagine that can be kind of scary to an audience. And I was thinking about it, because the only time I feel freaked out by what I do is in the middle of the night. Maybe not the only time, but that's the main time where I freak out. And I call it my nighttime brain. And my nighttime brain is such a scaredy cat. My nighttime brain thinks everything I do during the day is fucking insane. Particularly the fact that I talk about my feelings on the internet and that I share my feelings and I share personal things. And then my nighttime brain is the one that's like, having your audience grow and having your business grow would be terrible, because do you really want that? Do you really want to share your thoughts and your feelings to a larger group of people than you already do? And it's funny, because during the day, that is absolutely what I want. I don't care, I don't want so much. My focus so much is not on, I do want to grow. And audience growth is really helpful for my goals. I want to write books, and that's a helpful piece of being able to write books. More people to read your books allows you to be an author for a longer time. So that is important. It's like during the day, though, I don't really feel scared by that. I just feel motivated by it, unless something like bad is happening during the day. But during the night, I do feel really freaked out about it. And unfortunately for me, I wake up to pee like 3 to 4 times in the middle of the night, which is a problem. Apparently I have a stressed, overactive bladder. I have exercises that I'm supposed to do, but I just simply have not. So I wake up to pee and I get out of bed and I close my eyes and I'm like, don't think, don't think, don't think, don't think, don't think. Which of course makes me start thinking. And then the brain goes, what did you say in your video today? What did you say in your podcast? Or what did you say in the podcast that's coming out tomorrow? Who do you think you are? What if so-and-so hears that? That's just part of what I do, though. I would not do any of this if I wasn't called to. You don't just I have to, I make sense of the world through talking about my experiences, I guess, and what I've learned. And there is nothing else for me to do but what I do. And I hope I keep getting better at it. And I'm really lucky and grateful for your attention. That's going to make me feel a little emotional. So if you've made it to this part of the episode, I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for sticking around and for being so kind and supportive. It's been a really bumpy 2 years. And bumpy, there's been good in the bumpy too, but it's definitely felt bumpy. And I guess that is what personal growth really does look like. If you think about your own life and what you've accomplished and what you've gone through, like it never is just all the way up. The whole time it's kind of bumpy, and the bump might be starting to incline, but I've had some low lows while talking to you on this show and taking breaks from this show, and I've had some high highs, and I've probably had really bad episodes, and I've had some really good ones, and I hope that I've gotten better, and I think I have gotten better, and I'm just really grateful for your attention. I'm so grateful for your attention. Your attention is precious, and I respect it, and I don't really allow myself to think about it too much, but I'm working on this because I want to try to receive compliments more and all that. But it really, if I think about what some of you say and how much the show means to you and how much you look forward to Tuesdays, I kind of can't fathom it. I kind of can't really believe that that's true. So I just want to say thank you. On that note, I'm going to take the next few weeks off, which I had been kind of thinking about it the last couple of weeks. Should I take a little holiday break? Should I not? And I felt kind of scared too. I do feel kind of scared too, because I know last time I took a break, I didn't come back, but I was in a very different place than I am now. And I also feel scared because I'm a little scared of breaking the routine, almost like if I break the routine, am I going to curse myself and then I'm going to have a hard time getting back into it? But I think I deserve a holiday break. I'm going to schedule old episodes. I don't know which episodes I'm going to plug in. If there's any that are favorites to you, let me know and maybe I'll schedule those. So starting next week, December 16th, I'm going to be off through January 6th bad Tuesday. Tuesday, January 6th, the first Tuesday of the new year, will be my first episode back. And I can't wait for that. I'm really taking the 3 weeks just to kind of reset. Vlogmas is fucking intense and taking a lot of time. And it is the right thing to do to protect my sanity and to protect my burnout, to just take one thing off my plate so that I can make these vlogs and, work on my social media and continue my writing project, which means so much to me. So that is what I'll be doing during the time off. Please, if you don't follow me on social, that is where I'll be every day. And no pressure. If some of you are off social media, totally freaking respect that. You can also subscribe to my Substack. I've been posting and sharing way more there, often related to the podcast. Sometimes I will ask community questions, audience questions there, and then publish roundup stories that feature your perspectives on the topic. I know people have really been enjoying reading those, and it's a way for y'all to communicate with each other too. There's also a way I can, on my Substack, turn on private discussions where only subscribers can talk with each other. And that won't need to be paid or anything. It could be a free perk for subscribers. I have to look into that a little bit. Somebody asked me if I'd consider doing it on Discord or consider starting some sort of chat so that we all could talk to each other. And I really like the idea, but I want to be realistic about adding another thing to manage. I don't want to do that and then disappoint you by not being able to keep up with it. I'm totally freaking blabbing now. But hopefully if you've made it to this part of the episode, you're down for my blabber. That is it. That is all. I love you all. I appreciate you so much. I'm going to miss you these next few weeks, but I can't wait to talk to you on the podcast in the new year. Okay. I hope you have a great holiday, and I will see you soon. Bye.